Taylor Swift's latest album didn't just break the internet, it broke her fan base. The Life of a Showgirl was supposed to be another victory lap for one of the biggest artists alive, but instead, it's become one of the most controversial releases of her career. From diehard Swifties passionately defending every lyric to critics calling it her worst album yet, the internet has completely split in half. Some say it's proof Taylor's magic is fading. Others argue this is exactly who she's always been, unfiltered, playful, and misunderstood. But underneath the chaos, something deeper is happening. This isn't just about music. It's about how the world views Taylor Swift in 2025. So today, we're breaking down the fan reactions, the celebrity responses, and the hidden meanings behind The Life of a Showgirl. Because love it or hate it, this album says a lot more about us than it does about her. And that all started the moment the album dropped. When The Life of a Showgirl dropped, the internet didn't just react, it exploded. Within hours, social media turned into a battleground of emotions. TikTok flooded with videos of fans crying, ranting, defending, and analyzing every lyric like it was a thesis paper. Hashtags like Donner Showgirl and Taylor Swift album were trending worldwide. Twitter threads dissected each song, while YouTube critics uploaded hour-long reviews debating whether Taylor had just delivered a misunderstood masterpiece or her first major misstep in years. Some longtime fans called it a return to form, comparing its playfulness to Lover and 1989. Others, especially those drawn in by Folklore and Midnights, felt blindsided, saying it lacked depth and cohesion. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. "I expected pop perfection. Instead, I got mid-tempo background music for a dentist's office." And then came the memes, fans comparing the lyrics to old Tumblr captions, joking that Taylor had entered her millennial cringe era, while others defended her, saying she was simply reclaiming the unpolished authenticity that made her famous. Even non-fans jumped in, fascinated by how divided her massive following had become. The chaos was so intense that think pieces began popping up across entertainment outlets within hours of release. But this wasn't the first time Taylor's artistry sparked debate. From Reputation to Tortured Poets Department, she's built a career on polarizing reinvention. The only difference now is scale. She's no longer just breaking records, she's breaking her own fandom in half. And that's when people realized, this era of Taylor Swift wasn't just about music. It was about identity, loyalty, and what it truly means to evolve under a spotlight that never turns off. And that's because the fan base itself has changed. For the first time in years, the battle wasn't between Taylor Swift's fans and her critics. It was Swiftie versus Swiftie. The release of The Life of a Showgirl exposed a rare divide within one of the most loyal fan bases in the world. Longtime Swifties, the ones who lived through Fearless, Red, and 1989, defended the album passionately, insisting that this playful, slightly cringe Taylor has always existed. They pointed out how tracks like Stay, 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 Today Was a Fairy Tale, and Shake It Off were never lyrical deep dives. They were fun, catchy snapshots of who she was at that time. To them, the new album wasn't a downgrade, it was nostalgia. It was Taylor reclaiming her roots, reminding everyone that not every era has to be drenched in melancholy or wrapped in metaphors. Their message was simple. This is the same Taylor who made you fall in love with her in the first place, just older, freer, and unapologetically herself. But for newer fans, the ones who joined during Folklore, Evermore, and Midnights, this comeback felt like whiplash. They had fallen in love with Taylor's quiet introspection, her literary storytelling, her emotional depth, and Showgirl felt like a complete 180. Online, they voiced frustration, calling it a regression after years of artistic growth. One viral TikTok said, "It's giving 2012 energy, like she just hit shuffle on her old personality." As debates grew, fandom pages turned into echo chambers, with people arguing over what kind of artist Taylor should be. The divide wasn't really about the music, it was about identity, nostalgia, and how fans project their own eras onto her. Suddenly loving Taylor meant picking a side, the girl next door with sparkly guitars, or the introspective poet who made you cry during Evermore. And just when it seemed like the dust might settle, a new debate started rising online. One that would take the discussion far beyond the lyrics themselves. Was this really a creative misstep? Or was it a marketing failure? Before The Life of a Showgirl even hit streaming platforms, Taylor Swift's marketing had everyone convinced they were about to experience something spectacular, big, bold, and dripping in theatrical glamour. The title alone screamed confidence and performance, evoking images of Vegas lights, vintage feathers, and old Hollywood sparkle. The promotional photos reinforced that image. Taylor posing in sequined corsets, vintage curls, and satin gloves. A visual feast that hinted at a high-energy conceptual pop era. Fans on Twitter and TikTok began theorizing that this album would mark Taylor's grand return to her mainstream pop roots, comparing the aesthetic to 1989 and even the Eras tour. Pre-release threads were filled with excitement, with many predicting that this would be Taylor's flashiest, most self-aware project yet, a main character era filled with confidence and camp. But when the album finally dropped, the reaction was shockingly different from what most people expected. Instead of glitzy, upbeat anthems, fans got soft, wistful storytelling and stripped-back production. One viral post put it bluntly, "I thought it'd sound like the Moulin Rouge soundtrack. Instead, it's an afternoon nap." Others echoed the sentiment, saying they felt emotionally catfished by the glamorous rollout. The visuals had promised razzle-dazzle, but the music felt intimate, grounded, and deeply personal. However, even in disappointment, there was admiration. Tracks like Actually Romantic and Showtime Heartbreak reminded listeners why Taylor remains one of the best lyricists of her generation. They carried the same emotional honesty that fans loved in Evermore and Midnights, even if the production didn't match the glitz they anticipated. But as the discourse about tone and marketing reached a fever pitch, the focus shifted away from creative direction altogether and towards something even more explosive. Accusations of musical copying, celebrity loyalty, and hidden industry shade that would soon drag Charlie Puth, Olivia Rodrigo, and an entire new wave of drama into Taylor's spotlight. It became about whether Taylor was copying other artists. Just when the internet thought the drama surrounding The Life of a Showgirl couldn't get any bigger, Charlie Puth, yes, that Charlie Puth, stepped right into the conversation and completely flipped the narrative. In a viral TikTok that quickly gained millions of views, Charlie didn't mention Taylor by name, but fans didn't need him to. He calmly broke down why people need to stop accusing artists of stealing melodies, saying, "There are only 12 notes in a scale. Sometimes things just sound similar. It doesn't mean anyone copied anyone." That statement instantly sent Swifties into detective mode. Was he subtly defending Taylor from accusations that her new tracks borrowed too heavily from other artists? It certainly seemed like it. And considering Taylor had name-dropped him on her previous album The Tortured Poets Department, declaring, "We declared Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist," fans were convinced this was his way of returning the favor. Comments flooded his page. "Taylor was right about you," and "Charlie's writing for the Queen." Within hours, his post became the unofficial response to the plagiarism discourse that had been spiraling online for days. But not everyone saw it as a defense. Some fans speculated that Charlie's message had a hidden edge, that it might have been aimed at the other side of the conversation. The timing reminded everyone of Olivia Rodrigo's Déjà Vu controversy, where she was forced to credit Taylor and her collaborators after admitting "Cruel Summer" inspired her song. Suddenly, Charlie's neutral explanation started to sound like a commentary on that old drama, and the internet went wild trying to decode it. Was he calling out the hypocrisy of holding some artists accountable while giving others a pass? Or was he simply trying to calm down a toxic argument? Either way, the effect was undeniable. Overnight, the focus shifted from Taylor's lyrics to the ethics of music creation itself. And once again, Taylor Swift found herself at the center of a much bigger industry conversation. And that's when old wounds were reopened. Because this feud never really went away. This wasn't the first time Taylor's name got caught in a conversation about borrowed sounds, and fans were quick to bring up one of pop's most controversial music debates. Back in 2021, Olivia Rodrigo was forced to retroactively credit Taylor Swift, Jack Antonoff, and St. Vincent as co-writers on her hit song Déjà Vu after listeners noticed striking similarities to Taylor's Cruel Summer. Olivia herself had openly admitted in an interview that she was inspired by the yelly vocals and layered harmonies from Lover-era Taylor, a moment of honesty that some now say cost her creative control. What started as admiration turned into a legal and PR nightmare. Olivia, one of the biggest breakout stars of her generation, ended up handing over songwriting credit and royalties to Taylor, a move that stirred intense debate across the industry. Fans were split. Some said it proved Taylor's influence, while others called it unnecessary gatekeeping. The story became a defining moment for young artists navigating inspiration versus imitation in the age of social media. Fast forward to 2025, and the roles seem almost reversed. After The Life of a Showgirl dropped, fans began posting side-by-side comparisons of Taylor's new songs with tracks by other pop artists, claiming some melodies sounded too familiar. Viral comments read, "If Olivia had to give credit, why doesn't Taylor?" While others defended her, arguing that no single artist owns a chord progression or a vocal cadence. Charlie Puth's viral TikTok suddenly made sense in hindsight. His breakdown of how similar notes don't equal plagiarism seemed perfectly timed to back Taylor's case. But once the internet grabbed hold of the topic, it spiraled far beyond the facts. Threads accusing Taylor of hypocrisy exploded, while others defended her as the victim of an unfair double standard. It became less about who was right and more about who the internet wanted to root for. And while the world fought over song credits and melodies, another storm was already brewing, because fans had started to look deeper into Taylor's lyrics, convinced the real story wasn't in the music theory, but in the names she might be singing about. Because when Taylor writes, no one is safe from speculation. When it comes to Taylor Swift, decoding lyrics has practically become a sport. Every time she releases an album, fans transform into full-time investigators, dissecting metaphors, analyzing track lists, and connecting Easter eggs like it's a crime scene. The Life of a Showgirl was no exception. Within hours of its release, Reddit threads and TikToks flooded the internet with wild but surprisingly detailed theories about who each song was really about. One of the most popular theories surrounded Father Figure, which many fans believe was written about Scott Borchetta, the former Big Machine Records executive who sold Taylor's masters back in 2019. The lyrics, filled with betrayal and broken trust, seemed to echo the pain of that public fallout. Then there was Cancelled, a track that sent social media spiraling. Fans pointed out lines like, "Did they catch you having far too much fun?" and couldn't help but notice the British spelling of the word cancelled, 2 L's, which they took as a subtle nod to Sophie Turner. After all, Sophie and Taylor had publicly supported each other during Sophie's highly publicized divorce from Joe Jonas, even spending time together in New York. The timing, fans said, felt too coincidental to ignore. But those weren't the only theories catching fire. Some Swifties insisted Cancelled wasn't about Sophie at all, but rather about Blake Lively, one of Taylor's closest celebrity friends. The clue? Taylor was seen wearing Blake's custom jewelry brand during her album photo shoot, which fans interpreted as a symbolic reference, or to some, a cryptic apology. Others pointed to lyrical hints they claimed were directed at Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend, fueling endless debates about whether Taylor was subtly addressing her new relationship in the songs. But as always, Taylor stayed completely silent, refusing to confirm or deny a single rumor. That silence only made the internet go harder, with creators uploading entire videos decoding supposed hidden meanings buried in her lyrics, visuals, and wardrobe. What started as harmless speculation had turned into a full-blown digital investigation, one that blurred the lines between art and reality. And when the frenzy finally reached its peak, Taylor decided it was time to speak for herself. But what she said next left everyone stunned, and when she did, her response surprised everyone. After weeks of non-stop online chaos, Taylor Swift finally broke her silence, and she did it in the most Taylor way possible, calm, confident, and completely unbothered. In her sit-down interview with Zane Lowe, she didn't come across as defensive or defeated. Instead, she seemed amused by the whirlwind surrounding The Life of a Showgirl. "I welcome the chaos," she said with a smile. "If it's the first week of my album release and you're saying my name or my album title, you're helping." That single line instantly went viral, quoted across every fan page and entertainment outlet. It was the ultimate reminder that Taylor doesn't just survive controversy, she thrives on it. Over the years, she's transformed criticism into currency, turning every debate, meme, and backlash into free promotion. Rather than hiding from the noise, she turned it into part of the performance, proving once again why she's one of the most media-savvy artists of her generation. But beyond the cleverness of her response, Taylor also delivered something deeper, a reflection on what it means to make art in a world that refuses to let artists evolve quietly. Music is subjective, she explained. An album is just a mirror. What you're going through affects how you hear it. She reminded fans that reactions often change over time, pointing to Reputation and Evermore as examples of albums once criticized that later became fan favorites. Her tone was grounded and mature, like someone who's finally made peace with being polarizing. Taylor no longer seems to seek validation from critics or even her own fans. Instead, she's focused on creating a legacy that will outlast the noise. And in many ways, The Life of a Showgirl feels like a declaration of that independence, an album not made for mass approval, but for endurance. Because at this point in her career, Taylor isn't trying to prove she's perfect. She's proving she can't be broken. Because every showgirl knows applause and criticism come from the same crowd. At its core, this entire moment isn't just about the life of a showgirl. It's about what happens when an artist becomes so culturally massive that every move turns into a public debate. Taylor Swift isn't just releasing music anymore. She's living under a microscope where every lyric, hairstyle, and outfit becomes a headline. The reaction to this album revealed something deeper about how the internet consumes fame. We don't just listen to songs, we study them, assign meaning to every line, and argue about what it all represents. What used to be private interpretation has become a digital sport. Millions of fans worldwide pick apart her art like it's a puzzle, projecting their own stories and emotions onto her lyrics. And that's what makes Taylor such a fascinating case. Her career has evolved from being about music to being about the conversation her music creates. She's not just an artist anymore. She's a mirror reflecting the obsessions, expectations, and contradictions of an entire generation raised online. But maybe that's exactly what she's been trying to say all along. The showgirl in her album title isn't just a performer drenched in glitter. It's a symbol of resilience, of performing through scrutiny and chaos. It's about finding power in vulnerability and learning to keep the spotlight from blinding you. Because in 2025, fame doesn't end when the music stops. It follows you into every comment section, every trending hashtag, every fan theory. Taylor's story shows that the loudest noise doesn't always come from the stage. It comes from us, the audience, watching, judging, and projecting our own narratives onto her. Yet through it all, she keeps performing, not out of obligation, but out of endurance. And maybe that's the real life of a showgirl. Standing tall, smiling through the storm, and reminding the world that even when the applause fades, the art still echoes. And Taylor? She's still center stage, dancing through the chaos. So, did The Life of a Showgirl divide Taylor's fans, or did it reveal how fame has evolved? Maybe it's both. Maybe the album isn't meant to be her best. Maybe it's meant to be the most honest. Taylor's no longer chasing radio hits or critical acclaim. She's building a legacy, one that reflects not just her artistry but her resilience. And love it or hate it, she's achieved something no one else in pop has. She's made the entire world debate what music is supposed to mean. Because at the end of the day, the real life of a showgirl isn't about perfection. It's about showing up again and again, no matter what the crowd says. So what do you think? Is this Taylor's boldest era yet? Or has the spotlight finally gotten too bright? Let's talk about it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next upload. And don't forget to drop a like and share your thoughts in the comments. It helps the channel grow and lets me know what stories you want covered next.